drinking, smoking, that's something I do. I've been hiding all of my emotions, that's something I do. I've been rolling around, that's something I do. I've been rolling around, that's something I do. I've been riding, rolling, drinking, smoking, that's something I do. I've been hiding all of
Alright, here we are back in the garage with the KLX 351, well, KLX 450R now. So as you can see, we have the 450 motor here. Last video we stripped out everything on the KLX. A couple of things that are basically attached to the bike. Well, I didn't remove them, like the kickstand switch, ignition and speedometer, left those on the bike. But today's task is test fitting the 450 motor, see how my measurements stacked up. As you guys saw in the end of the one video where I teased the 450 swap. Lengthwise was the main concern. The rear part of the motor where the swing arm pivot bolt goes through, that is skinnier than the KLX. Height wise, I believe we were pretty close to the KLX, I think, but other than that, we should be pretty close here. So I guess the only thing left to do is to put the motor in there. And the important thing about this video is we're gonna have to see what we're gonna have to do in order to fit the KX 450 motor in the bike. So without further ado, let's go ahead, pull the swing arm bolt out, and well, I guess see how this fits. Get this pulled out here real quick. Down through here. Okay, 450 motor going in. First time. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, so as you can see here, with the motor fitted in the motorcycle, there are a few things that we need to figure out, and I'm looking for your guys' help. I have some ideas, I'll share them with you, but if you guys have any ideas as well, let me know. First issue, a smaller issue though, is that this cross support hits the top of the cylinder head. So that might not be too big of a deal, you're saying, but we're gonna have to remove and relocate it, probably slide it up here, and make sure we have enough clearance to take the valve cover off for valve checks, because oh, it's a high maintenance motor now. Whatever, it's a freaking toy. But we're gonna have to do whatever for the cross support, because we want to be able to take the throttle body in and out easily. We're gonna have to take this out so we can slide the motor back to be able to stab the swing arm pivot bolt. As I thought, it is a lot skinnier than the KLX by about an inch. So we're going to use that inch and slide it to the right, because that will have our sprocket just about perfect in terms of lining up with the stock location. As you can see, it's lined up just about perfect now. It's pretty much dead on, as you can see. There's the sprocket, there's the groove for the chain. You draw a line and it's pretty much straight. So my measurements were pretty dang good there. I know some of you guys doubted me on that, but here we are, it lines up pretty straight. And the other reason why we're moving that to the right is because our exhaust sits here, our header. That's gonna come out right here. So once we get the header fitted here, we're obviously probably gonna have some sort of custom exhaust to an FMF power core, maybe the stock exhaust if we can't get one in time for when this build is ready to start. That's why I kept the stock KX exhaust when I put the FMF on it. Regardless, it's still loud and it sounds good. So I guess it's better for sneaking, but you know me, I like them braps. So once we get the header on, we're probably gonna get some custom piping to go to an FMF power cord. Then as you can see, our motor mounts are gonna be absolute cake. The stock KLX mounts almost work on this. As you can see, on my brother's 300 here, it has a triangle mount. So basically we're probably gonna end up making the same type of thing. For the KX here, get our motor mount bolt, stab it through. That'll be the front mount. The bottom mount, again, gonna be easy. We're resting on the stock KLX motor mounts right there. You can see the KX one is right there. So we're gonna cut off The stock KLX ones basically use the same design welded onto the frame of the KLX here. There's the bottom motor mount, and that solves all of our motor mounts except for the cylinder head one. That's gonna be easy as well. Gonna use the same method as the KX. As you can see over here, it's just a bracket coming down from the frame. So again, pretty simple in terms of mounting. They're all just gonna be custom brackets. So the next things I'm gonna be talking about here are probably gonna be the biggest issues or the hardest things to adapt on the KLX here for the 450 swap. So as I said in the end of last video, here is the KX, and the throttle body sticks out at this angle. On the KLX, it's stuck out at that angle. You can see the duct right there. Now this is about where the motor is going to be sitting in terms of front to back placement. Will be a little bit further back. So even if we get the throttle body in there, we'd have to get a custom hose. But again, the main issue is that it's cocked to the left, not to the right. So here's my idea. Put the throttle body in. I'll go ahead and stab that in for you guys real quick. So here you can see it. Our throttle body is in. It's on the motor, and it is coming out right here, which is absolutely fine. It clears this kind of center cross member of the frame right there, and we can probably just squeeze a hose there. It might get pushed in a little bit by this cross member. Like I said, I want to use an air box with the bike. I'm not really a fan of the pod filters. There's a lot of design that goes into the air boxes, and pod filters usually kind of takes away from that engineering genius, have you. So that's fine if we can get a hose there, but the next issue becomes that the piggyback shock here for the KLX is in the way of our airbox. Now, simplicity tells me that we can go ahead and just remove the shock and flip it around. The reservoir will be over here on this side, and we have some pretty decent space. This angle right here should come out right here, and if our air duct is going the other way, we shouldn't have this here from the KLX anymore, so we should have plenty of room for the piggyback shock. As you can see, this is how it's done on the KX. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right there. I'm thinking I'm probably just gonna have to take the shock off, put it on backwards, have you, and see if that clears up the space we need. I'm thinking it will. I don't really see a reason why it wouldn't. So from there, we'd be able to go to a custom plastics place. They'd be able to create our front half for the airbox here. We'd scrap this, and they'd make up a design that would work with the hose that would just come right through here, connect to the airbox, and that solves our airbox problem. The other option is if we leave everything exactly how it is, then we'd have to get pretty much a totally new custom airbox. The hose would probably come out like this, right here, come out, and then stab in here somehow. Grand scheme of things, probably not too bad, but it would not slim down the bike at all, which I would like to do for the KLX. That was my plan before I decided to do the motor swap, slim it down. Now as you can see, we have the side plastic off the KX here. Here is the fuel tank. My idea for the fuel tank is, well, I'm pretty sure we're just gonna have to adapt a KX fuel tank to the KLX because the fuel pump is bigger on the KX. Here is the pump, as you can see. It's gonna be sitting up inside here on the KX tank. You know, hey, if we end up putting a KX tank on there and that changes the seating position to a nice flat position on the KLX, great. Give you more of a dirt bike riding stance versus dual sport. But I'm not super well versed in how the fuel tank thing works. Maybe we could just buzz out the KLX tank to be able to fit this, and then get, you know, drill the holes here properly where they should be. I don't know. If that's a possibility, let me know. Other option would just be a custom fuel tank, which I really don't want to do. I mean, the more that I look at it, it would be pretty easy to make a custom tank here. Just follow this line here, here, box, slant, box back down, follow this line here to mount the plastics, because I do want to mount KX plastics on the KLX when it's done here to make it more along the lines of a KLX 450. Let me know your opinion down below. Again, fit and finish, what you think would look the best, KX tank, KLX tank adapted, or just a custom aluminum tank, something like that. But that's pretty much it for all the challenging parts of this project. Fit in terms of swing arm, fit for the swing arm pivot bolt, it works just like I thought. We are narrower than the KLX, so that's going to work great. Just need to get a spacer made there. So other miscellaneous items before we sign off here. Cooling, that's going to be real easy. As you can see, we have all this space up front, just like we do on the KX. Here's the cooling setup on the KX. We come out the bottom here into a little Y from the water pump, and then we cross over to the other side, right here, to the radiator. KLX, it's going to be pretty simple again. We're going to have a little Y, one to the water pump, one that'll cross over to this radiator right here. Now, as you can tell, radiator size, KLX significantly smaller than the KX over here. KX quite a bit taller. If I can get my lighting right. Yeah, KX significantly bigger radiators. So in order to fix that, we're gonna have to probably run dual fans. Not that big of an issue. If we have the dual fans running for most of the time, cooling should be good. But hey, this is a custom project, and if we need to swap bigger radiators on there, we'll do it. But that's all I see in terms of, I guess, issues that we may run into. Shifter, might have to extend that out a little bit. Wiring is gonna be absolute cake on this bike. Much simpler wiring harness, and then we will get one of those street legal kits for the 450. Part that I'm most excited for though with the KLX450R is that since it'll be a little bit heavier than the KX450, it should make the power a bit more manageable. It should feel like when you get on the power that the suspension, it really hunkers down. That's one thing I talked about in my KLX reviews. With extra weight, softer suspension, sure, you might not be able to go over the whoops as fast, but if you get it valved just right for your weight, the suspension should hunker down and give that sense that you're actually putting the power to the ground. Instead of the KX, suspension is a little bit stiffer. It feels like you're just spinning your wheels all the time. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of what we need to do to get this bike running. Really, not that much at all. Figure out the throttle body, the fuel pump. So yeah, that is going to do it for today's video. Now, make sure you leave a comment on all of the ideas that I was talking about today. The fuel pump / fuel tank, the airbox / throttle body, any of the topics that came up, make sure you leave your ideas below, any suggestions. Because this is a custom project, I have my ideas, but I'm excited to hear what you guys have to offer as well. So if you enjoyed, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, share it to your friends, those who may enjoy it. Make sure you are subscribed to keep up with the build and all the other toys on the channel. If you're into motorsports, you're in the right place. With all that being said, join the club, and I'll see you in the next one.